Dear students, artificial hybridization involves selection of the female flower and selection of the male flower and artificial transfer of pollen from male flower to the female flower. So, artificial hybridization, the main idea is to obtain plants with desirable characters. Mendel conducted artificial hybridization after removing the anthers from the bisexual flower in the bud condition itself. So, based on this let us see one question. Mendel carried out artificial cross by option A, emasculation of selected female parent plant, option B, emasculation of selected male parent plant, option C, dusting of pollen grains from selected male plant over selected female plant. When you consider steps in artificial hybridization, the first step is the removal of anthers from the flower bud of a bisexual flower. After the removal of the anthers, the flower is covered with the butter paper to prevent pollen contamination on the stigma. Then, once the stigma is mature, the pollen collected from the desirable plant is transferred to the stigma, that is called pollination. So, after pollination, again the flower is covered with the butter paper to prevent the transfer of undesired pollen onto the stigma. So, the entire process whatever I have explained is the steps in artificial hybridization. So, Mendel also conducted artificial hybridization to see the inheritance of characters in pea plant. So, in this particular question, Mendel carried out artificial cross by option A, emasculation of selected female parent plant. So, selected plant wherein the stigma is being used, wherein the stamens have to be removed, that is called emasculation. Option B, emasculation of selected male parent plant. So, the male parent plant is a unisexual plant wherein emasculation is not required. And option C is dusting of pollen grains from selected male plant over selected female plant. So, when you consider all these options, option A and option C is the correct options, and hence the correct option in this question is option D, both A and C. Students, Mendel conducted several experiments on a pea plant, and his works remain unrecognized for quite a long time. Only in 1900 his works were rediscovered by 3 scientists, and there are several reasons why his works did not get recognition for quite a long time. One of the reasons is Mendel did not communicate his results properly. Those days communication was very difficult because and moreover he did not publish his results in a widely circulated journals. The second problem is Mendel proposed the concept of factors, but he failed to provide the physical basis where the factors are present in the plant. And third is Mendel did not get any variations in his experiments, but same variation that occurs in the nature, Mendel did not have any explanation. And other reason is Mendel used maths and statistics for data analysis for all his experiments, and those days the use of maths and statistics in biology was very new, and biologists could not accept this idea of using maths and statistics. Based on this, let us see one question. Mendel published his work on inheritance of characters in 1965, but it remained unrecognized till 1900 because option A, he could not provide any physical proof for the existence of the factors, because by that time the chromosomes were not discovered and Mendel failed to provide where the factors are present in the plant. Option B, His concept of factors as stable, discrete units that control the expression of traits did not find acceptance from the contemporaries. And option C, Mendel's approach of using mathematics to explain biological phenomena was totally old. And option D, communication was not easy. So, when you consider all these options, the option C, Mendel's approach of using mathematics to explain biological phenomena was totally new for that time, it is not old. And when you see all these statements, the statements A, B and D is correct, and hence the correct option in this question is option C, that is A, B and D. Dear students, before we take up the next question, let us understand the Mendel's monohybrid cross experiment on pea plant. See, for example, Mendel selected a tall pea plant and a dwarf pea plant, and these are the genotype for a tall and the dwarf pea plant, and these are the gametes, and this is the F1 generation. In F1 generation, the capital T and the small t, that is heterozygous condition, all plants are tall because there is a law of dominance. When a dominant gene is present, it expresses and the recessive gene do not express in the next generation. After selfing is a cross between individuals of the same generation. In this case, the individuals of the F1 generation were crossed, that is called as a selfing. After selfing in F2 generation, Mendel obtained 3 tall plants and 1 dwarf plant. Out of 3 tall plants, so 1 is homozygous tall and 2 are heterozygous tall and 1 is homozygous, that is dwarf plant. So, when you consider the total ratio here, 75% are the tall plants and the 25% are the dwarf plants. So, based on this, let us take up one question. The question goes like this: what result did Mendel obtained after monohybrid cross between tall and dwarf pea plant? So, option A, all new plants were dwarf. Option B, all new plants were tall. Option C, 50% of plants were dwarf and 50% plants were tall. And option D, 75% plants were tall and 25% plants were dwarf. As you have seen in the cross for monohybrid in pea plant, so in the F2 generation, there are 75% of tall plants and 25% of dwarf plants, and hence correct option in this particular question is option D, that is 75% plants were tall, 25% plants were dwarf. One of the methods Mendel used in his experiments is the reciprocal cross. So, reciprocal cross is the characters in the alternate sex. So, in other words, for example, if one plant, a tall plant is selected as a male plant, for example, when the pollen is transferred from tall plant to the dwarf plant. So, here the tallness with respect to the male and the dwarfness is with respect to the female. In other cross, the pollen is transferred from the dwarf plant to the tall plant. So, in that case, the dwarf plant is considered as male and the tall plant is considered as a female. So, see the characters which is present in alternate sex of the plants is called as a reciprocal cross. This is also one of the methods Mendel conducted to see the inheritance of characters in a pea plant. So, based on this, let us take up one question. The question goes like this: after performing reciprocal cross between tall and dwarf plant, the ratio of tall and dwarf plants obtained was option A 1:2, option B 3:1, option C 1:3 and option D is 2:1. So, in this particular question, so even in a normal cross or a reciprocal cross, Mendel always obtained 3 tall plants in F2 generation and 1 dwarf plant in F2 generation, that is 3:1 ratio. So, and hence the correct option in this question is option B 3:1.
ಡಿಯರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್, ನೀವು ದಿವಿಗೆ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಹೇಳಿ, ಇದೇ ಥರ ನೂರಾರು ವೀಡಿಯೋಸನ್ನು ಫ್ರೀಯಾಗಿ ನೋಡಿ.